Hello, this is Ty Bollinger. Welcome back to the Truth About Detox. I hope that you've enjoyed episodes 1 and 2 and that you've learned some valuable information to help you in your efforts to detoxify your body and achieve optimal health. But just in case you missed episode 1 or episode 2, or maybe you've forgotten some of the information because I know we've covered a lot of stuff in these last 2 episodes, here's a brief recap. Much of the stigma about detoxification goes back to the battle between Antoine Béchamp and Louis Pasteur and the cellular theory versus the germ theory of disease. Pasteur's germ theory proclaimed that germs, viruses, and bacteria are the cause of illness, whereas Béchamp's cellular theory noticed that these germs that Pasteur was so afraid of were actually opportunistic in nature, and that it was only when the tissue of the host organism, which is me and you, became damaged or compromised that these germs began to manifest as the prevailing symptom, not cause of disease. Béchamp advocated not the killing of germs, but the cultivation of health through diet, hygiene, and healthy lifestyle practices like fresh air, getting good nutrition, exercising, sweating, etc. Detoxification. Pasteur's germ theory, however, won a battle, and as a result, modern medicine is not concerned about the internal terrain of the person, me and you, but only concerned with killing the bacteria or the germ or the virus. But many physicians today disagree with this thesis, and they advocate detoxification as a primary method of keeping the internal terrain of our bodies clean and healthy. The primary organs that we focus on detoxifying are the skin, the liver, the colon, the kidneys, and the lungs. Cleaning up the gut system, also known as the microbiome, is the first step, and we learned numerous methods to detoxify the colon back in episode number 1. Next, it's important to clean the body of harmful organisms with things like black walnut, clove, slippery elm, oregano, neem, and cascara sagrada. Also vital is to cleanse the blood, and this can be done effectively with things like essiac tea, ginger root, burdock root, dandelion, sarsaparilla root, chlorella, and goji berries. Kidney detox is essential, and some of the most potent herbs that detoxify the kidneys are parsley, watermelon, cilantro, ginger, lemon, cucumbers, and asparagus. Next up is the liver. And just in case you aren't familiar with the functions of the liver, here's a brief summary. The liver has 2 large sections called the right and the left lobes. The liver also detoxifies chemicals and it metabolizes drugs. And as it does so, the liver secretes bile, which is stored in the gallbladder and is used to break down fats and to remove toxins, finally ending up in the intestines. The liver also makes important proteins for blood clotting and other functions. The liver is the only organ in the body that can completely regenerate itself. In episode 2, Robert Scott Bell shared with us some potent homeopathic liver detoxifiers that will help restore metabolic function and also reduce the burden on the kidneys, namely Bryonia alba, Nux vomica, Chelidonium, and Taraxacum, which you know, and I know, is dandelion. At the end of episode 2, Mike Adams shared some amazing tips for defensive eating at its finest, like combining coleslaw or cabbage with barbecue, or combining blueberries, strawberries, and chia seeds with foods that may contain some toxins, like combining turmeric, typically high in lead, with something like an apple that'll bind to the lead, like adding mustard, onions, and pickles to a hamburger, and like juicing veggies while combining with the pulp and the soluble fiber of fruits. So, are you ready for episode number 3? I know that you are. In this final episode, you're going to learn what Paul Harvey used to call the rest of the story. So let's get rolling. To begin this episode, Dr. David Brownstein describes how the amount of toxicity in the average person has increased exponentially over the past few decades, specifically heavy metals. And Dr. Rashid Buttar describes what he calls the 7 toxicities.
We live in a toxic world and people are becoming more toxic. I've been checking people for toxicity levels for over 20 years and the amounts of toxicity they have gone up, not down, over that same period. And I find that over 90% of people have high levels of mercury and or lead, amongst other things. Heavy metals cause a multitude of problems in the body, including neurologic problems and immune system problems. They poison hundreds of enzymes in the body. There's no known therapeutic value of these items. We shouldn't have these in our body, and even small amounts can cause problems, but levels have gone up in people over the last 20 years, not gone down. So I think people are suffering more and more from metal toxicity.
So what are the 7 toxicities, and then how do we get rid of them?
So the first one is heavy metals. So when we talk about heavy metals, we're not only just talking about the lead and the mercury and arsenic and tin and antimony, those things that we know, but we're also talking about certain minerals that are imbalanced. For example, high iron or selenium, if they're too high, or copper can actually act as an oxidative stressor as well. So by the way, the common mechanism of action for all these 7 toxicities is the same, which is oxidative stress. And so all disease process, the mechanism that causes disease processes is an acceleration of that oxidative stress. And as you know,
What is that?
So oxidative stress is the rusting process. When you cut an apple and you see it turn brown, or you see a banana turn brown, that's actually oxidative stress. And it's occurring to our bodies all the time. When you exercise, you actually increase oxidative stress. For those couch potatoes that say, hey, that's why I don't exercise, it doesn't work that way. You want to increase that, the body, the more efficiently it's working, you may experience an increase in oxidative stress, but the detoxification is to remove the substances that accelerate the oxidative stress beyond a normal range. So yes, if you exercise to an extreme, it can cause detrimental harm. You've heard of the marathon runners and certain athletes that will drop dead because they've just pushed themselves too hard. So oxidative stress is a natural process of life. Everybody's experiencing it. What we want to do is we want to reduce the oxidative stress, the rate of that oxidative stress. So the first one is heavy metals, and so as I said, the heavy metals, which are the bad ones, we all traditionally know mercury, lead, and those, but also the ones that are minerals that are important for life, but in too high of a level, they can cause an increase in oxidative stress.
Heavy metals mimic valuable nutrients, and that is why heavy metals get taken up by your body's cells and organs, because your body thinks they're calcium or zinc or magnesium or molybdenum or something else. So you realize, heavy metals are sneaky little molecules that are covertly invading your body. They're stealth operators. It's like a stealth bomber going into your cells. So how do you stop that? You make your body more intelligent and more able to sort out good from bad. How do you do that? You got to get more plant-based nutrients into your system. It activates that part of your immune system that is able to distinguish good from bad with greater discernibility. And then you start displacing the mercury and displacing the lead and the cadmium, and you eliminate it from your body through normal processes like urination and just bowel movements. So you're eliminating toxic elements every time you urinate. Detox is as simple as using the toilet or exhaling. When you exhale, you are detoxing with every breath. Detoxing is not tragic. It is effortless. The key is to stop bringing those toxic elements in and then boost up your body's defenses with all of these plant-based nutrients that can defend you and activate your immune system against all these other threats.
I've got a heavy metal detox. This is just amazing. So I'm going to make a shake for you.
Awesome.
A heavy metal detox shake. I call it, the other title for it is Icy Spicy Gazpacho. And I serve this to almost everyone who comes to dinner at my house. I put it in wine glasses, and it's slushy and yummy, and everyone loves it. And cilantro is our key in there.
And we all need it, don't we? With heavy metal detox? I mean, we're all toxic with heavy metals.
We all are. I watched a special about Flint, Michigan recently, and the lead in the water, and it broke my heart because no one had an answer for those people. And here are parents on camera crying. My poor children, they're so worried. Well, I would be too. They should all be on cilantro shakes every single day because it is called the poor man's chelation.
Speaking of cilantro, we just planted in the garden, and we plan on doing some shakes too. And we don't have any recipes, so we're so excited to learn.
Oh, that's super.
And didn't Tabitha and Charity just pick this?
Yes.
Oh yeah, fresh
Yeah,
pick.
Tabitha cut it. Charity was a cute little flower in the garden, like usual. But they like to eat it like little bunnies, so they're always eating our herbs.
That is wonderful. And that is so great because they're detoxing lead and mercury and aluminum. Also, it would be in that category of this would help to detox that.
What you're doing is so great because families, like you're saying, you feel so sad for the people in Flint, and the families don't have answers. You bring the world answers. That's so important to us, and our children now own it because we've taught them from the time they were very little. In fact, Tabitha, the girl that cut it for us, the first solid food she had was coconut oil. And do you know, to this day, she loves coconut oil. So this is really important for families and for children specifically to develop tastes for these wonderful things that God gave us.
We're making heavy metal detox cocktail, also known as Icy Spicy Gazpacho. So you can serve this to your guests. This is the one I serve to my guests a lot, and everybody loves it. I'm still sipping my little juice here.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll turn off the turbocharger. Now here's the key that we mentioned before. This is
It's about to take off.
the turbocharged engine is just kind of still wanting to take off. So we're going to put in our cilantro because this is our heavy metal detoxer. And some people tell me they can't eat cilantro because they're allergic to it. I think they might be detoxing. I can't say that for sure, but I think it might be a detox reaction. So start off, if you're one of those, start off with just a tiny little bit and work up. If you're one that loves cilantro and you can take a lot of cilantro, have at least a quarter cup of packed cilantro per person. So we're probably close to a quarter of a cup with this. Now I'm going to pour in my carrot juice and lemon juice combination. I'm going to add a pinch of cayenne pepper. So I'm just going to put a little bit. Isn't it good? I love it too. Yes. It is so...
Get your blood flowing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And it is helpful in getting the liver moving in the morning. Like if you add cayenne to hot lemon water, it gets the liver moving in the morning. So that's a good part of the detox.
Our lemons are lemony.
Oh, they are the most lemony I think I've ever had.
Wow.
They are full of flavor, you know?
Good. We drink lemon juice in the morning, so I'm going to start adding the cayenne. How is it?
It's not bad. So you guys can love them. It's not like my normal ones are. The lemon just really dominates. And you can taste the cilantro.
I can smell the cilantro.
Yeah.
Before tasting it.
But just know it's good for you. Normally it's...
It's really good.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Normally
Oh, yeah, it's really good.
out of this world.
Yeah. Come on in, guys. Get a taste of this.
Oh, good.
We'll give the guys another taste here.
Really good, guys. She says it needs more carrots, I think.
A little more carrot for the sweetness. Maybe.
John, I'll bring your cup over here, buddy. That's good.
Carrot juice. I sometimes just drink carrot
Okay.
juice.
Go.
Well, I've been...
Kraus.
They're really nice.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
Yeah, it is good.
All right.
I would take it all.
Yeah.
I want everybody
Jono?
to taste.
Then we don't have to lie.
Thanks, Sherry.
No, it's really good.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I like it.
Ready?
All right, very
It's got
good.
tomatoes. Cheers,
good.
everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Yes.
Good to go, mate.
Okay, here's to getting rid of those heavy metals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be gone. Heavy metals be gone.
I have to admit that myself, my wife Charlene, the entire video crew had a great time tasting Sherry's icy spicy gazpacho that she concocted there in our kitchen. The carrots, lemon, cilantro, and cayenne pepper really do bind to heavy metals and help remove them from your body. This is called chelation. Next up, Dr. Rashid Buttar discusses this topic of chelation as it relates to heavy metal detoxification. What exactly does this mean? Let's have a listen.
And so heavy metals, that again, chelating with the IV, the right chelators, a lot of doctors will, chelating is a word like transportation. So, there's many different ways of getting transportation, tricycles or Learjet. So you got to make sure you're doing the right type of chelating with the right agents. One thing that a person can do is use infrared sauna. Very effective at getting rid of chemicals. We do ozone autohemotherapy where we basically put in ozonated blood. The biological impact of ozone, for those that have ever watched the Mango videos that you and I did, they can get more information there. But basically, oxidative stress is, ozone creates a high oxidative stress, but ozone also in the German literature from the 1940s was shown to actually break down the persistent organic pollutants into subunits so the liver could now excrete them. And that's one of the major reasons that I use ozone in our clinic. So that's another way.
Talk about infrared though. You mentioned infrared. So there's far infrared and near infrared are two spectrums of light.
Correct.
How can that help to detoxify?
So it's a very, very specific frequency that resonates in a way, it only affects the superficial aspect of the body, the first 2 or 3 centimeters. Some people say may go as deep as 2 inches, but regardless, you're getting the body to, the infrared is affecting the system in a manner that helps you break down the persistent organic pollutants, and you sweat these things out. And the organ of detoxification, there's 5, our whole head map, the Advanced Health Evaluation Assessment for Detoxification Medical Assessment Program that we've developed over the last 12 years, 13 years actually now, is all based upon the organs of detoxification. So you've got the liver, the gut, the kidneys, and the fourth one is the skin. And skin is actually the largest detox organ. So infrared helps to utilize that largest organ of detoxification.
By sweating.
By sweating. By sweating.
What about
but like if you use regular sauna, it's not as effective.
You need a far infrared or near infrared.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct.
What about, you mentioned the liver, the gut, the kidneys. How do you detoxify those organs?
A head map, and that's the only way I can summarize because that's another hour long. But this is something that you and I talked about a couple of years ago. So it's a fantastic way of eliminating and optimizing your organs of detoxification that the Creator ultimately designed within our own systems. So like the liver is the oil filter of the body, the kidneys, the gut. If you get those 3 things and then you get the skin and the systemic pH balanced, I mean, you are so far ahead of the game. And we've got a whole entire program that's remote that we can use. We've got patients from 85 countries using it right now. Okay. And of course, we can talk about that later, but that's something that I know that your listeners are going to have.
That would be something that's specific to the person.
That's specific to the person, that's correct. Okay. It's specific based upon subjective SF36 patient outcome-based research model where they give us the information, where the patient gives the information to a computer, and the computer will designate where the greatest impact is and gives you a numerical value in how all the different organs are working, and then it gives you an idea of how close you are to 0 point, as we talked about.
Dr. Group, you mentioned chemical cleanse, heavy metal cleanse. What are some of the substances that would be in those products that you would be able to help people get rid of those toxic pollutants from their body?
Well, we use a combination of different herbs that have been proven, such as cilantro. Believe it or not, fulvic acid, humic acid works extremely effective at bonding some of those chemicals and toxic metals out of the body. Any type of your spirulina, your blue-green algae work extremely well. We actually also use a proprietary formula that was developed in Japan in a detox foot pad that's gone through 10 years of clinical studies in Japan. A lot of the detox foot pads got a bad rap a long time ago. You can use clays, different types of clays, substances, far infrared, and so we use a combination of a liquid formula. At the same time, we have those individuals use this proprietary formula that we have developed for us for the detox foot pads, to where they apply that as we're immobilizing the chemicals and toxic metals from their bloodstream, and the blood circulates through, the detox foot pads actually pull those out of the body through the feet.
So let's summarize what we've learned thus far. Heavy metals are not our friends, and they need to be removed or chelated from the body. We have lots of options, from Sherry Calbome's Icy Spicy Gazpacho juice, which contains carrots, lemons, cilantro, and cayenne pepper, to EDTA chelation, to ozone autohemotherapy, to substances that Dr. Ed Group just mentioned, including fulvic acid, humic acid, spirulina, green-blue algae, to detox foot pads. But certainly we don't have to worry about heavy metal contamination in organic products, do we? What Mike Adams is about to share will definitely shock you.
In this laboratory, I've found, lead contamination in certified organic protein supplements from China, but they're sold by American companies. So you don't know they're from China. There are a lot of things that are grown in China that are contaminated. And Ty, I'm going to tell you and everybody watching, this is my professional opinion as a scientist and a food researcher. I think that organic certification in China is largely a fraud. When I look at what's in foods and I look at organic China versus organic California, let's say, or organic Texas, it's a huge difference. Organic in California is clean. Organic in Texas is clean. Organic in Canada is clean. And Europe is very clean, much cleaner even than the United States. Organic in China is consistently contaminated. We did test here in this lab, well, the previous version of this lab, this is the new expanded lab. We looked at the ability of different foods to bind with mercury. And using ICP-MS, analytical testing, parts per billion sensitivity, we found that the top 3 foods for binding with mercury, which you could get in tuna or fish, and I'll talk about that in a second, are strawberries, peanut butter, and chlorella.
Peanut butter?
Peanut butter.
Okay.
Peanut butter, well, that kind of makes sense because it's very sticky.
Okay,
Right? It's a
yeah.
sticky oil.
Sure.
It binds wonderfully to mercury. So if you think about it, if you have some fish, you want to have some fresh fruit and maybe some nuts together with it.
Okay.
Because you're going to get, even almond butter would probably have a similar effect. So we found mercury, by the way, in all fish that we test, without exception. It's because most of the salmon that people eat is farmed salmon, which is a very, very toxic way to raise fish protein.
Why is it so toxic?
Because they're taking the fish from the oceans, which are already contaminated with mercury, and they're feeding those small fish to the salmon fish. They're concentrating up the food chain the mercury chemical, metal. So the mercury is bioaccumulating in the fish, and that's what you're eating. And then it's bioaccumulating in you. So you got to block that during digestion. And again, strawberries, peanut butter, or chlorella, all 3 did a fantastic job at blocking mercury. You know, the truth is most lead and cadmium and mercury was locked far beneath the ground before the Industrial Revolution. It's man that has mined all of these minerals, even minerals, rare earths that go into solar panels and go into wind turbines and modern electronics. These have been mined out of the earth and then incinerated or smelted or thrown away and then in effect redistributed across the surface of the planet where they now affect our food. And lead arsenate, you know, was this insecticide that was used for many, many generations, even in North America, spraying lead and arsenic on fruit orchards. Yeah, it kills insects, but guess what? It stays in the soil for forever. You know, you don't destroy lead.
Right.
It's there. So you grow something 100 years later in that soil and it's going to have lead in it because the plant's taking that up. Now, interestingly, you can do what's called phytoremediation of soils. There are certain plants that have very special affinity to certain toxic metals. You can plant those plants to pull up all the lead, like lead magnets, harvest those plants, get rid of them, and then you're left with soil that is essentially lead-free. But that takes a growing season. It takes time and money. Most growers aren't interested in that. A lot of times you're driving down the highway and you see farms near the highway, right? Well, you know, for many decades there was lead in gasoline. And that lead, of course, was emitted from the tailpipes of all the cars and trucks running down the highway. Guess where all that lead went? Farmlands right next to the highways.
Yeah.
And even today, even though leaded gasoline is no longer legal except in airplanes, you know, so airports now have lead around them because the leaded gas is still used in airplane engines. But cadmium, another toxic heavy element, is found in brake pads. So every time a car puts on its brakes, it's emitting some cadmium, a small amount, trace amount. But you do that over year after year with millions of cars and you get cadmium on the farms next to the highways. So if you have a choice, don't buy food grown next to highways or industry or even cities. Cities have polluted air, right? You've been to LA recently? Yeah. Or how about Beijing? Even worse, or Mexico City for that matter. So you want food that's grown in the country. This is part of my message, Ty. You know, a lot of people are afraid to try to eat healthy because they think they're going to be unable to eat the things they love. Right? It's a big fear, right? People say, well, I want my Big Mac or steak or whatever, tuna fish sandwich. Well, with what I've learned here in this science lab, I found that you can still eat those things. You just add this defensive mechanism, which is usually a plant, you know, a fruit, a fiber. You could even take, for example, grapefruit fiber supplements. You could pop one of those pills with every meal and you could get a considerable benefit from grapefruit fiber. It's very high in pectin. In fact, grapefruit is one of the best fibers there is all around. So if you eat grapefruit with a meal, very protective, but it's, for a lot of people that's too sour, so they can actually take a supplement and get that.
So just the combining of these protective foods allows you to have a wider range of things that you can eat.
Yes. And if you're really, really concerned about things like Chinese medicine herbs, for example, they're very potent, very healing. Many of them, because they come from China, are very high in lead. Okay. So I developed a patent-pending formula called Heavy Metals Defense. It's at heavymetalsdefense.com if you want to read about it. It absorbs 99.9 something % of lead with an ion exchange mechanism, and it's made from a dehydrated seaweed.
I, by the way, take that every time I eat something
do you really?
that I know has lead or mercury in it.
See, I do the same thing.
Wow. The Health Ranger just shared some amazing information, didn't he? Mike, the mad scientist, has developed a formula that takes care of 99.9% of lead. It's called Heavy Metal Defense. You can learn more about it at thetruthAboutCancer.com/detox, along with all the other products that I've mentioned during this documentary. Mike also shared the fact that strawberries, peanut butter, and chlorella are excellent substances to bind to mercury. So if you're eating fish, which is typically high in mercury, then eat some strawberries. And grapefruit fiber is extremely protective against heavy metals. Another substance that's effective to remove heavy metals and poison, drugs, and bacteria is activated carbon, also known as activated charcoal. The first recorded use of charcoal for medicinal purposes was found in Egyptian papyri around 1500 BC as a method of staving off infection from open wounds. Since then, healers have used activated charcoal to soak up poisons and improve intestinal health through a process called adsorption. No, that's not a misspelling. It's important to understand the difference between absorption with an AB and adsorption with an AD. When something is absorptive, absorptive, that means it soaks up other substances. But when something is adsorptive with an AD, that means that it binds to substances. Activated charcoal actually uses a thin film on its outside surface to bind to toxins and poisons. That's adsorption. Ancient physicians used regular charcoal for a variety of medicinal purposes, including treating epilepsy and anthrax. In the early 20th century, the development of activated charcoal sparked many medical journals to publish research revealing its effectiveness as an antidote for poisons. You make activated charcoal by burning a source of carbon, which is wood debris or coconut shells, for instance. The high temperature removes all the oxygen and it activates it with gases like steam. Basically, the process that creates activated charcoal, which is steam heating and oxidation, ends up creating an adsorbent internal lattice of very fine pores that capture, bind, and remove poisons, heavy metals, chemicals, bacteria, toxins, and even intestinal gases, which has thousands of times more weight than charcoal itself. It's hard to believe, but just 2 grams of activated charcoal powder has about the same surface area as an entire football field. The porous surface has a negative electric charge that attracts positively charged toxins and poisons. It binds them and escorts them out of your body through the elimination processes of your intestines. The best long-term study on the detoxification benefits of activated charcoal was conducted by Professors David Cooney at the University of Wyoming and Thomas Struxayer at Duke University. These 2 professors learned that monkeys on the African island of Zanzibar eat charcoal from burned tree stumps in order to detoxify. It's amazing, isn't it? The innate wisdom of monkeys. I understand that the idea of swallowing a spoonful of what is essentially ash may not tickle your fancy. However, activated charcoal is completely odorless, tasteless, and safe to consume and can be purchased in handy capsules or tablets. And it's a powerful detoxifying agent to boot. Next up, Dr. Rashid Buttar discusses another toxicity which is everywhere. He calls POPs, or persistent organic pollutants.
The second one is what I call POPs, persistent organic pollutants. So those are the chemicals, the insecticides, the pesticides, the fluorinated hydrocarbons, the toluenes, the benzenes, the organophosphates, etc. So anything that is in the body that shouldn't be there, that's a chemical base, that's synthetic.
Which is a lot of stuff nowadays, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty much everything.
That's a big umbrella.
Exactly. So actually, like the chemicals in the plastics, that act as xenoestrogens, it's pretty much in every aspect of life. One of the slides that I have in my cancer presentation that I did about 10 years ago, one of my cancer presentations had a slide about the introduction of some of these chemicals. And there's over 100,000 new chemicals being introduced into the global economy every year. but there's millions that are being introduced that just never see the light of day. Most of them are experimental, but about 100,000 every year that get introduced into the global economy. And the consequences of those, on the biological burden that it's creating, we really don't know because time hasn't shown. For example, DDT or dioxin, some of these things, they were used for 50 years before we realized how toxic they were and they were banned. By the way, the reason they refer to them as persistent organic pollutants is because they persist in the body. The body can't clear them. So they have a tendency to stick in the body. Fat holds onto them. So that's one reason being obese is not good, because the chemicals get stored inside the fat. So we refer to them as persistent organic pollutants because of the fact that the body can't eliminate them, and that's one of the reasons that we do specific types of treatments to help to break those persistent organic pollutants into smaller subcomponents that are no longer persistent so the body can eliminate them.
Remember, we still have thousands upon thousands of chemicals that people are infected with. Pesticide residue, herbicide residue, the glyphosate, the atrazine. Most of the corn people eat is contaminated with atrazine. All the phthalates, all the chemicals from cosmetics. I mean, all of these things in parts per billion need to be cleaned out of the body.
One of the things about exercise we don't often think about is when you're pushing yourself to the point of feeling like you're going to die, and then you survive and you feel that, like, usually this ecstasy and this, like, wow, I made it, A lot's going on a physiological level, but one of the things is called mitochondrial biogenesis. So the so-called powerhouses of the cell are able to regenerate when you exert yourself in enough where you really feel like, wow, I've really pushed my envelope. And those mitochondria are essential for regulating our cells. They even regulate programmed cell death. It's involved in cancer, not just energy. And then you have stem cells, which are the magical, immortal cell line in our body that has been inherited from all previous ancestors. Those stem cells also are able to go through division process and help to regenerate tissue that's damaged or so high in toxicant burden that it's better that they go through programmed cell death and those toxins are released and taken out of the body than to continue to live, because they can transmogrify their phenotype, so to speak, into cancerous or harmful behavior. So in many ways, exercise performs quite a lot of functions to regenerate the body as well as remove the chemicals that are accumulating in the body. We live in a world where nuclear pollution is everywhere. After the atom testing, for example, globally, we had uranium and plutonium concentrations you could measure in almost any sample. Now we have the fallout from 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima, and you have power plants that just naturally give off plumes of over 2,000 man-made or anthropogenic radionuclides just through releasing the steam from these basically pressure cookers as refueling. And so we have these radionuclides everywhere in extremely low doses. When they first came up with the toxicity risk model, it was based on Hiroshima blast survivors. And they assumed that, the real danger is gamma radiation exposure from the outside in, and they sort of averaged the dose by the amount of tissue exposed and came up with a calculation of risk. Well, unfortunately, that didn't explain what happens when exceedingly small amounts of these elements get into your body. You could have 1 atom of plutonium lodged in your body forever, and it's like literally giving off a sort of thermonuclear effect on that cell and the tissue around it for the rest of your life, causing all types of cancer, for example. Uranium-238, right, which is the basis for most of the nuclear power, as well as for DU, depleted uranium munitions. It has a half-life of 4.4 billion years, okay? That's longer than the age of the Earth, which means it's always going to be here. There's a study from the Army's Radiobiology Institute in Bethesda, Maryland, that was published, that shows that there are several thousand, if not 100,000 orders of magnitude higher toxicity associated with uranium-238 exposure than present radiation risk models allow for. So what I'm really referring to is the fact that when you really look at toxicant, heavy metal, radiation exposures today, less is actually more in certain ways. And it's a dismal scenario, but I think the public really needs to know this information, because what's happened is the radiation risk models, toxicant risk models, make it seem as if you could expose yourself to large amounts of chemicals every day and it's okay. The way they actually come up with these risk assessments is they do the LD50 model. Take animals, give them a lethal dose of a chemical that will kill 50% within a certain range of time. There's the acute toxicity model, say it's two days. And then they say, oh, let's extrapolate from the animal model. What's an acceptable level of harm for a human, assuming they can just look at body weight and calculate what is an acceptable rate? Well, of course that model is insane. First of all, there's no such thing as an acceptable level of harm in my book. If you apply the precautionary principle, the moment a manufacturer has something that could do harm, well, guess what? The burden should be on them to prove it's safe to the consumer. That's not what happens. They use this other model, release it into the environment and into consumer products, and then only after many years, sometimes decades, and cancer rates start to spike, do the consumers themselves have to raise the money, the political capital, to prove through what they call the weight of evidence model that they may have been harmed.
Then the third toxicity is what I call the opportunistics. Now, the opportunistics are the bacteria, the viruses, the spirochetes, the mycoplasma, the yeast, the parasites. I call them opportunistic because they don't affect everybody. What do I mean by that? The person has to be susceptible to these substances, to these organisms, in order for them to actually manifest a problem. So if a person's immune system's intact and they're healthy, then these opportunistics aren't really going to have that much of an effect. But some people are susceptible to them. Why are they susceptible? Because of the first and second toxicity. The heavy metals and the persistent organic pollutants suppress their immune system, thus rendering them more susceptible to the opportunistic. So the fourth toxicity is the energetics. Electromagnetic radiation, ambient cell phone radiation, microwaves. In fact, when we've done some energetic testing in cancer patients, the number one energetic toxicity that they have is microwave. That's one reason I don't have a microwave in my house. I don't have a microwave in my clinic. We don't even have it even wired. We just yanked it out. If you think about driving in a car, sometimes if you're listening to the radio and somebody's about to call you, have you ever experienced when the cell phone, before it rings, you'll hear the distortion on the radio?
Yep.
Well, that is a form of electromagnetic radiation that you're experiencing. So you know that if it's causing enough of a disruption in the radio signal, it is having an effect on your system.
One of the best things that's ever been researched post-Chernobyl was the use of apple pectin to take out from all these children's bodies all of these radioisotopes they'd accumulated, like cesium-137. They literally saved tens of thousands of lives by simply using apples and apple pectin.
What is pectin?
Pectin is just a fiber that is able to pull out, along with some of these heavy metals, bile salts, for example, which can help to accumulate toxins and get stuck in the liver, so they can kind of pull some of that material out, eliminate from the body. So one of the many things you can utilize as a food that, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, an apple a day keeps the Fukushima fallout away too. Yeah, if you think about what people do today, they take a microwave device. This will literally heat my brain in a matter of minutes, and it affects the alpha waves almost immediately. And their children are literally exposing themselves and adults to a microwave. You don't have like nerve receptors in your brain to be able to feel it, but if you did, there would be probably some pain. And this is like just a fraction of what they're being exposed to. You go to a place in New York City, there's 100 Wi-Fi connections popping up on your phone at any given moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty significant problem.
I'd have to agree with Sayer. The invisible toxicity of radiation and electromagnetic pollution is perhaps the number one biggest threat to our health. For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we are constantly being exposed to a high level of radiation emitted by communication devices that has never before been seen in the past. From the use of our mobile phones to the presence of wireless routers in our homes, we are being bombarded by EMR, electromagnetic radiation, almost everywhere we go. The concern over long-term EMR exposure is its cumulative nature and the impact that it has on our health and the health of our children. In 2011, the World Health Organization classified electromagnetic radiation as possibly carcinogenic to humans, based on its findings on the rising trends of chronic degenerative diseases. Together with the International Agency for Research on Cancer, they classified EMR as a possible cancer-causing source, based on increased brain cancer associated with wireless phone use. The World Health Organization placed electromagnetic radiation in the same class as lead, chloroform, and car exhaust fumes. Radiation is everywhere, but there is a solution to protect you from EMR exposure. This little device that I'm holding here is called the Wave Rider. This is a patented invention of Dr. Igor Smirnov. You may remember Dr. Smirnov from the Truth About Cancer, A Global Quest. I interviewed him about some of his inventions. Now, Dr. Smirnov invented the molecular resonance effect technology, the acronym MRET. And this has helped thousands of people to stay healthy and protect them from electromagnetic radiation. Wave Rider is a well-tested device that has been validated by labs all over the world and has been proven that it is effective to protect us from EMR exposure. You can learn more about the Wave Rider at www.thetruthAboutCancer.com/detox. It's on the screen right now. The Wave Rider has been proven that it's effective against EMR exposure. It can protect you and your children. We actually have a Wave Rider. We have 2 Wave Riders. This is one of our Wave Riders. We have 2 of these in our house. This thing runs 24/7 to protect us from EMR. So I'm a firm believer in using Wave Rider technology. In this next clip, Dr. Rashid Buttar discusses emotional and psychological toxicity.
The 5th toxicity is the emotional, psychological aspect. Now, why is the emotional toxicity, the psychological aspect of the emotional component so significant? Why do I consider that, if any of them, out of these 7 toxicities, why do I consider that the most significant, if anyone's going to be placed more significant? It's because we as a species, humans, we're all carrying baggage. We're not only carrying baggage that's conscious in our own minds, things that we've experienced or traumatized, but there's certain things that are suppressed from childhood, from even maybe before childhood, some people said from in utero. But then there's also the energetic aspect from an emotional standpoint of what happens when we talk about miasms. And that might be a little foreign to some people. You know what a miasm is, I know. So for the listener, think of a miasm as a genetic memory. And so the emotional aspect that's been carried from your mother and your father and from your grandparents transcends generations in your DNA and has a memory associated with it. I believe that 2,000 bits per second of data that our conscious mind is processing versus the 400 million bits of information that the subconscious is processing, the subconscious by definition controls everything, and it's dealing with a lot of baggage that we may not even be aware of. One of the things I tell patients on my first visit, before I've ever taken them on as patient, in the event that I may not see them, I tell them to make a list of every single person that they feel has ever wronged them. This could even include the little kid that stole your milk money when you were in grade school or whatever, right, in kindergarten. It doesn't matter, even if it was the person's dead, it doesn't matter. Put them down on that list and then systematically forgive them. And I mean really forgive them. Not forgive them, oh God, you still got the crunch. No, I mean like really forgive them. Let it go. Not because they deserve a forgiveness, but because you as a person who renders that or harbors that negative energy deserves to not carry that burden. So forgiveness is a very, very key component. I have all the cancer patients come to us, we have them make that list. We tell them to systematically eliminate. And when people say, oh, I've already done that, I already know that they haven't done it. Why? Because when you really have done it effectively, you realize that that's an ongoing process for the rest of your life. They've actually done studies where they've gone to people and asked them, who do you feel has wronged you? And then they'll make a list of those people that the person feels has wronged them. Then they'll go find those people and they'll interview those people, and 80%, right around 80% of the people that they interviewed that were listed down as having done something wrong didn't even realize they had somebody that created resentment. In other words, they were walking around, this person's been walking around all their life thinking so-and-so, like I would be walking around thinking that you owe me an apology. But when they poll you and the other people that I feel have wronged me, 80% of them didn't even know that they'd done something to deserve an apology, that they owed somebody an apology.
Right.
So we're walking around with all this baggage and we don't even realize that the person that we feel has wronged us doesn't even realize that they've wronged us. So we're harboring all this negative, and that's where the emotional toxicity, that's one of the many things, right? And it starts to form an abscess, and it festers, and it rots, and it grows. And so when we talk about cancer, that's how cancer is. Cancer is festering and it's growing inside us, it's rotting inside us. It's the same component. So energetically speaking, it's very similar. Cancer and that 5th toxicity, the emotional, is almost analogous. Okay. And of course, there's many other things that can be done, but the point is that has to be in all toxicities, for all disease processes, that should be addressed. But in cancer, it's paramount.
Most of the toxicity that's out there right now is emotional. But nobody wants to talk about that because there's no money in it. I can't sell a product. That's why I put together what's called the Awaken Transformation Program. And that's a program where I teach people within 33 days they can change their whole life. And you know what? Once you change your belief systems and you love, respect, and honor yourself, then your food choices, your friend choices, and your choices on what you do with your life are going to change. Because it doesn't matter, Ty. I can tell you about a cleansing program and you're going to go do it. But if you have low self-esteem, or you believe that you're not worthy, or you believe that you haven't been created by the greatest thing in the world, or that you are a light being and you can have whatever you want and you were here to experience joy, then all the cleanses in the world aren't going to help you, Ty. Your thoughts shape you. So you need to make choices that honor you.
When we're talking about with emotional toxicity, that's so crucial to remember is that anything that you resist will persist. And I will tell people, I'm not even gonna look at you, Ty, I'm gonna look right at the camera when I say this. If you can eliminate this one toxicity, the emotional toxicity, here are the words that I believe you should live by. There's two sets. The first is the serenity prayer that I talked about in my book, right? The serenity prayer is, God, please give me the ability to change the things that I can, the serenity to accept the things that I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's the first thing you need to remember, and say it out loud. And the second thing is remember that where attention goes, energy flows. So if something's bothering you, if you've got an IRS audit, or you got a neighbor that's just a pain in the rear end, or you've got a lawsuit that's pending or something, by you thinking about it all the time, you are putting your attention and feeding that, which is going to come back to you. What's the best thing to do? I'm not saying burying your head in the sand. What I'm saying is start thinking about something that gives you pleasure. Your children, okay? Your family, a mentor that helped you. Whatever is positive, put your attention there. So there was emotional, psychological, spiritual. So the emotional and psychological is now separate from the spiritual. And in a nutshell, spiritual toxicity, there are more people that have died in the name of God than all disease processes and all wars put together. Jews and Muslims and Christians will kill each other because they believe their opinion is more important. That's where that spiritual toxicity comes in. The reason I separated them is because I saw a lot of people with emotional toxicity, but not spiritual toxicity. And on the other hand, I had some people with spiritual toxicity, but didn't have an emotional toxicity.
It is ironic that people of certain religious beliefs will literally kill someone else if they don't convert to their own religion, isn't it? In the Bible, Jesus says to love your enemy, to do good to those that hate you, to bless those who persecute you, and to pray for those who mistreat you. I think we would all be a little bit better off and much less toxic if we followed that advice, don't you? Here's the Professor Newsom giving us a lesson on the importance of the lymphatic system.
Your lymph nodes are they're the filtration system in your body's sewer system. Okay. Your lymphatic system drains all the waste and all the garbage, all the, every flush of the toilet of your muscles, goes into that lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system drains all that away from your organs, away from your brain, away from your, anything vital drains away from that vital organ toward a lymph node, okay? The lymph nodes then, they're filters. You got 600 of them in your body. There's 600 lymph nodes all throughout your body, and they're in essence, if you we call it a cross section. If you were to take a human kidney and cut it in half so you could see what it looks like inside there, and took a lymph node and did the same thing. The only difference anatomically difference is lymph nodes have more tubes going in and out of them than kidneys. Okay. But they're almost identical. The issue that conventional medicine runs into with a swollen lymph node is they don't have anything that'll heal it. You can cut it out, you can radiate it, you can do all these different things that destroy it, right, and destroy whatever's in it. They don't have anything to heal it. I define the healing process as stabilization, detoxification, and then fortification. And if you fortify the body, it'll transform. Okay, so if you're not going to do that with a swollen lymph node, the only remedy is to burn it with radiation, cut it out, or intoxicate it to the point it can't function anymore, and then it doesn't swell up anymore because it's not doing its job.
So what specific ingredients do you have in your product that helps to detoxify the lymphatic system?
For the longest time, we used SCIAC formula.
Okay.
Just plain old SCIAC formula that works wonders. It's great. I've done a lot of work in Ecuador. In one of the universities there, half hour from the campus, there is a local tribe that, and they're still, living in huts, and they're out in the Amazon rainforest, and it's amazing. You go out there, and their medicine man is still their medicine man. You know what I mean? It's ran like it was always run. I went out there on one of our excursions, and went out and we're doing a little tour of the jungle out there. It was beautiful. And the medicine man is our guide, and I had a swollen lymph node under my chin, had some stuff going on. And I asked him if he had a remedy for it, and he said, looked at it, poked around, he said, oh yeah, and goes, he gave me this formula, and I asked him, like the history of this formula, and it was really kind of interesting. If you study the history of the SCIAC formula, he almost recited that. Only this is from South America.
So they all had the same knowledge?
Same knowledge, totally different herbal formula, but same, basic.
So is that what's in your herbal formula?
And that's what we've done. We've taken those two formulas and combined them, and oh man, it just came up together beautifully.
So it's basically the combination of two different herbal remedies from different native tribes in different parts of the world.
Right.
Wow. So Doc Newsom's Optimox Detox System is built upon healing modalities from opposite ends of the globe. This is a supplement that's easy to take and effective at gently detoxifying your entire body. We use it here in my family. You can too. You can find it along with all the other products that I've been talking about throughout this documentary at thetruthaboutcancer.com/detox. Next up, Sayer G discusses the importance of exercise and how it helps pump the lymph flow and detoxify the body. I think most people don't typically think of exercise as being a way to detox, but you just explained that it really is important in detoxification.
Absolutely, and our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump, like the heart, pumps the blood. So when we're doing this intense movement, we're also just completely helping to flush all of the, toxicants and help our immunity in a way that is not possible without this type of movement. So, there's many, many benefits from exertion of that kind.
Every day, what I also like to do is I also like to do rebounding.
Okay.
Because rebounding is the most effective exercise, on the planet. NASA did a study of all the exercises, and it was found that rebounding is the most effective exercise to reverse or to prevent cancer. But what rebounding does, every time you go up and down, it pumps your lymph system. It opens up your lymph system and pumps it. Why do you think when you're older and you stop exercising that you degenerate and age so fast? Because when you stop exercising and moving, your lymph doesn't move. That's why it's really important that older people do the Epsom salt, cocoa salt glow, right? So, but anyways, and they should also be rebounding. But when you rebound, remember with your kids, when they would be cranky, you would rock them up and down?
Yep.
Well, why would you rock them up and down? To move their lymph system. As soon as you move their lymph system, they calm them down. And then also the other thing that I have my patients do is what we call core twisting. It's a device that you stand on. It's only this big. And they have a stick in their hand. And what they're doing is they're twisting back and forth. When you're cleaning the car, right? Right, and you're drying the car off. How do you wring the rag out, don't you?
Yep.
Okay. So what happens if we were to do an action like this? Okay. What would that be doing? Well, that would be lengthening, strengthening, twisting, and detoxing. That's the most effective exercise you can do. And you only work your core muscles, because your core, if you have a strong core, then you're strong everywhere. That's it. Go ahead. You see these guys at the gym? But if their core isn't strong, they're going to be toast. None of this muscle will hold. If you want to hold muscle till you're older and keep your detoxification up to its highest peak, then you need to have a strong core. Then you'll never have to worry about it. So when you're on this twister and you're twisting back and forth, you're wringing out, what are you doing? You're twisting your organs. You're twisting all your tissues. You're opening up all your joints. So we can really bring everything home, you know? So what I do is I use 5-pound weights. And I just put the music on, and it's all about fun.
Afterwards, it's really important to replace your electrolytes. So again, coconut water or some kind of electrolyte balancer or something like that, and rest. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. People don't just lay down for a good 30 minutes to an hour and let the body say, okay, I just went through some detoxing and now I'm going to let it go. And just really allow the body to heal itself. So many people are like, hey, I feel good, I'm gonna go. And I'm like, no, it's the worst thing you could do. Truly. When I had people on my program, I would say in the afternoon, you have to take 2 to 3 hours of rest. And people would say, I can't do that. I'm like, then let's work on it. Why can't you do that? Oh, now we have an emotional, mental, spiritual issue. Now we have to detox from that, right? So, you know, it is an issue there. But if you could take that time to rest, to really allow that time, the body is so grateful because it could focus 100% to rebuild and repair itself. It's huge. The lungs, in order to detox it, needs over 60 different types of minerals. That's the key. I learned that years ago from Dr. Kerry Reams. And he had said that, you know, when you get a lot of minerals into the lungs, it could really heal itself. So exercising is very important to expand it and get that going and helping the lungs get stronger. But it's really the minerals that help to build it up. So to detox it, there are a lot of herbs that you could take from, you know, wild cherry to coltsfoot to mullein, which actually helps to soothe it. But it doesn't really detox it. To detox it, you have to do 2 things. One is to get the minerals in. Another is to get rid of the mucus that have been built up from the diet. So those people who live on yogurt, get off of yogurt. Even natural yogurt. No, it's too mucus forming. You could have it maybe once a week. And I learned that in my clinic. I would have people come in and they would have sinus and lung issues all the time, especially in Wisconsin, right? Everybody seemed to have that. And I say, so what's your diet like? I would have them with 3-day intake, and I would see yogurt. I'm like, you can't have yogurt. Just get off yogurt for a while. Let me see what happens. And sure enough, and they would be cleared up. So no yogurt, no soy milk, anything that's mucus forming, right? So then how do you actually clean out that excess mucus? And that's where the detox part comes in, is the lemon, is drinking a lot of lemon, because lemon helps to break and cut through the mucus, and it helps to get rid of that.
Lemon, and lemon. Lemons for lung detox. As a matter of fact, tea made with ginger root and lemon helps eliminate toxins from the entire respiratory tract. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And as I mentioned in episode 2, lemon essential oil is an amazing and easy way to detoxify. I add it to water along with peppermint essential oil for my healthy lemonade that I drink almost every day. I know we're learning a lot about detoxification, and at times I know it can become overwhelming, but I think that you're going to be encouraged by Sayer G's perspective in this next segment.
Well, the light at the end of the tunnel is that every moment our body is utilizing highly complex detoxification systems, which in some way almost anticipated the chemical revolution. The cytochrome P450 system, right, that is largely centered in the liver, is able to take a broad range of modern xenobiotics, which are foreign chemicals, and there's hundreds of thousands of them now, and somehow find a way to make these fat-loving chemicals water-soluble and help to, through the phase 1 and 2 detoxification systems, and help to remove them from the body.
This is why we talked previously on, previous episodes of the Global Quest when we were talking the truth about cancer, the need for detoxification on all of these levels and the need for something like a mineral like selenium. Yeah. It's not like we're operating in a vacuum, but this is the homeopathic realm. This is where we can directly interact with the metabolic functioning of every cell if we know this clinical drainage type approach. And it's exciting because it's not just about the organs of elimination, but it's recognizing all of the cells have to detoxify. How do we support them simultaneously?
If you've been through chemo or radiation or both or surgery and all those drugs with surgery, you've got to detox. It's just imperative. And I say to everyone who comes to me with cancer, you must deal with what took you to that point. Were you toxic? I'm sure you were. Was your diet poor? I'm sure it was not perfect. Whatever took you to that point of cancer, you must deal with that. And if you went through the traditional treatments, you added toxicity to your body. So you must get that flushed out.
I've seen many extraordinary results from people going to a detox juicing type of diet. I've seen people overcome stage 4 liver cancer. I mean, stage 4. You're supposed to be dead almost. Complete healing, recovery from that, went on to run marathons. I've seen many, many people overcome the toxic effects of chemotherapy. They come out of conventional oncology cancer treatments. They go through a juicing detox. They eliminate the toxic chemotherapy that was damaging them, and they cure their own cancer, and they go on to live cancer-free for a very long time. I've seen that many, many times. I've seen juicing detoxes cure or halt type 2 diabetes in as little as 4 days. In just 4 days, this person was off insulin and stayed off it because they changed their metabolism, they changed their body just by changing what they eat and allowing the body to detox. So I've seen what many people might call miracles, but they're not miracles. They're actually the blueprint that your body has. You have a biochemical blueprint that is designed to eliminate toxins and create spontaneous healing.
It's amazing what the body can do when it's clean and it's healthy.
It's truly amazing what the body can do when it's clean, detoxified, and healthy. I have to agree with Dr. Group. And I think what Mike Adams just shared was perhaps the most important takeaway of the entire documentary. Our bodies have a biochemical blueprint that is designed to eliminate toxins and create spontaneous healing. That's why detox works, because our bodies were made to detox, and our bodies were made to be self-healing mechanisms. But that's not what we typically hear from the doctor, is it? If we're sick, then we're told that we need a drug to help with the symptoms. Then that drug causes side effects, and eventually we'll need another drug, or 2 or 10, to help with those symptoms that the first drug actually created. Let's give a listen to Sayer G discussing the fact that most drugs are actually petrochemical byproducts.
So one of the most important things that I think people don't often acknowledge is that when you look at modern drugs, over-the-counter prescribed, the vast majority of them are actually just byproducts of petrochemicals, the chemical industry. And if you look at it from even the lens of the logistics and the finances and the materials, the pharmaceutical industry is really just a subsector of the chemical industry, which is related to the fossil fuel grid and the entire geopolitical nightmare of wars fought forever around the world, which is about acquiring resources from other countries often, taking their oil. So anyway, the idea is that pharmaceuticals are, by definition, xenobiotics. They are foreign to bios, life, the body, and they should never be in the body. There are cases in emergency medicine where a petrochemical drug might actually save a life. So there are exceptions. But in 99.9% of the time for chronic disease or prevention of disease, all they do is create a whole new set of disorders which then have to be detoxified themselves. So when we start looking at what pharmaceutical products are, we have to acknowledge that the best way to protect yourself from toxicity and to detox is just eliminate them from your lifestyle and your body as best as you can. And that is the #1 way that you preserve your health.
What everybody needs to understand out there is that everybody is a drug addict. Okay? There's no difference from street drugs to prescription drugs. So that's why people are so highly toxic. Just because everybody does it doesn't make it right. And when you do drugs, you are not detoxifying your body. You're making your body more toxic. You're telling it to shut up. Everything that I do, all the therapies I do, everything that I teach, I try to teach every one of my patients. I don't want them to come and see me. I want them to become their own person and bring health home so that they can help their family.
Over the last 6 years working with the Medical Advisory Board on the Dr. Oz show, it has become, quite the challenge to constantly perform to find the next best thing, but it's also been quite humbling, for that show to reach out to me and ask for my expert opinion as it relates to what is next best and what is new and worthy of the consideration of the rest of the Medical Advisory Board and Dr. Oz himself and his viewership. And in the process, doing my due diligence on every scenario has ultimately served me well, kept my finger on the pulse as it relates to the natural ingredients worldwide that Mother Earth has to share with us, and then allowing me to share it vicariously through the Dr. Oz show. It's been quite amazing and quite humbling at the same time. When your doctor or doctors, your healthcare team, everyone should have a healthcare team, not a singular individual. It's always 3, 4 heads are better than one. When that team divides themselves up and decides it's this or it's that or it's the other thing, to sort of help or to get a regrouping in order, all right? Everyone's sort of got to be on the same page when it comes to your healthcare. If not, you're your own best advocate. If you suspect its toxicity, if you suspect that perhaps your environment is burdening because everything else is seemingly ruled out, pull your healthcare team together, ask them to investigate further. Get tested for heavy metals, get tested for phthalates, get tested for xenobiotics, get tested for hormones, get tested for your genetic susceptibility to be able to clear those hormones. And the reason is this, is if these toxins that I'm describing are in fact those things that are burdening you, you got to play medical sleuth and get to the bottom of it, because when they're found and when they're dealt with, you're free. You ultimately can live the life that you are meant to live.
Wow, isn't that what we all want? To be free and to live the life that we were meant to live? That about sums it up, doesn't it? I hope that these 3 episodes of the Truth About Detox have been helpful in your own personal quest to learn how to properly detoxify your body and to achieve optimal health. In conclusion, embarking on a full-body detox program can have massive health benefits, including increased energy, lowered stress, reduced junk food cravings, more mental clarity, relief of chronic fatigue, and improving chronic illnesses. One of the most important effects of a detoxification program is that it gives the immune system a break. The immune system is on call 24/7, and it has to work overtime whenever we ingest foods that contain or carry harmful chemicals, pesticides, and toxins. When we rid our body of these toxins, the immune system is then able to surveil the body like it's intended to and keep our internal terrain strong and healthy. Remember the words of Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Our bodies have a biochemical blueprint that is designed to eliminate toxins and create spontaneous healing. And also remember that the mark of a truly successful detoxification program is that you are set on the path of positive and long-term change. Thank you for watching this documentary, and God bless all of you.